And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for 15 minutes. My guest today is King County Councilmember Larry Phillips. Councilmember Phillips, thank you for joining us today.
You bet.
How have you been? It's good to see you.
Great to see you. Great to be with you. I've been very well. Life is good. Blessed to be in this community, and so everything's great.
You have spent some time as elected official at the state legislature. You've spent a number of years on the King County Council. Recently, you have announced the big news that you will not be seeking re-election this upcoming term. When I first read this, I thought it was a joke, knowing you and your passion for these issues, but you are in fact going to be ending your career as an elected official, at least at the King County Council level. I know there are probably more than one reasons as to why, but tell us why you've decided to make that decision.
Well, Andrew, you're correct. This is a great job. I've been very honored and privileged to be able to serve in this capacity for a long period of time. 27 years as an elected, both as a state legislator and on the King County Council. Privileged and honored to be able to serve the people of 4th Council District and to work on their behalf every single day. Coming to this courthouse, I'm always energized by the challenges here in this great community we serve. But it was just, it wasn't an easy decision to come to, but it was time to sort of think about the future, where I'll be in the next 4 or 5 years. Is it time to turn the page and start a new chapter? And at the end of the day, that was basically it. I've had a great run. The people I serve are fantastic. This community is a wonderful place to call home. And I will continue to call it home and in some way be involved in its future, but not in this job going forward. I came to the decision to move along, and so no one issue was compelling. Still have great energy for this place, but it was just time to think about doing other things, and that's where we are.
Well, I will point out, I know the time constraints involved in this job as someone who has worked at the staff level are immense. You come in early, you have full council meetings, committee meetings, you meet with constituents both during the day and at night. You go to these community meetings and meet with constituents in the evening time. I would imagine that time constraint probably was taking a toll to some degree as well, was it?
Well, the time constraints around elected officials and public service are serious. They're big, and there never seems to be enough time to get it all done. Personally, I found the job coming in and being involved in the decision-making formally at the council committee level, informally with constituents in the evening or lunch or breakfast or whatever. I always found that energizing, as well as campaigning for the office. I found that immensely energizing to be able to talk with people, see what's on their minds, how we could do things differently. But there is a fatigue factor in that. And when you have a family, you have other things all going on in your life and whatnot. It makes for long days, long weeks. It can be draining. So even though it's energizing, it does take its toll in terms of your time and somewhat times physically in terms of what you're able to actually accomplish. So that's very true. Even though you get more efficient, more effective at what you're doing as time goes along, it still can be draining.
And you always have to be sort of on all the time because you deal with constituents, you deal with other council members, so it's hard to find any time to relax. You always have to be on your job. Is that correct?
That is very true, and there are members of my family who like to tell me, I can never take you anywhere, because whenever we go somewhere, someone comes up and wants to talk for just a few moments about an issue of the day or what we can do, or give me a piece of their mind. So in that sense, yes, you're always on. You really can't go to the grocery store. Gail and I just got back from vacation. We had somebody come up to us. We were a long ways away, and someone came up to us and started talking to us about issues in and around King County. So in that sense, you always are. But that's all right. I mean, it was part of the franchise, part of the deal, and so you just get used to it and deal with it and keep going.
There are a number of issues that you have been involved in over the years, both at the state legislative level and at the King County Council level. You were key in implementing, for instance, the Growth Management Act. There's a lot to show for that piece of legislation. Looking back at your career, what are some of the issues, some of the causes that you would say you're most proud of to be involved in?
Sure. Well, when I first got involved with this business and public life locally here some time ago, sprawl was rampant here in King County. We were really losing the qualities that we care most about here. And as a native, someone who grew up here, went to school here, saw those changes, heard what people were saying about that, I just thought it was time that we could take a different course in protecting our natural resources and managing growth more effectively, protecting our quality of life, but certainly accepting new growth, new energy, new opportunities, not hurting the economy. We could do things differently and have all that as well. So looking back in terms of our efforts to protect our natural resources, to provide for parks and open space and recreational opportunities, to make sure that we are protecting our economy as well and grow in that respect, and then provide the infrastructure to make sure people could get to and from work and get around this community well. Those were all things I had a hand in. I think looking back, I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. Not that those challenges ever abate, they don't. Managing growth never really stops. But if you're going to protect a place as special as I believe the Puget Sound Basin and particularly King County is, and people really want to live here, we continue to grow by leaps and bounds.
Yes.
I think it's incumbent upon us as a community of citizens and as elected leaders to find a way to make it work, to protect those things that are most special to us, but also to make sure that we have a quality of life where we're living here. So in that respect, looking back, I'm thinking if I had to say one thing I was most proud of is meeting the future better than we had in the past, and maybe charting a course for all of us to follow so we can have that for our kids and grandkids as well.
These larger pieces of legislation, like the Growth Management Act, right down to smaller pieces of legislation, over the years as an elected official, would you find that it has become simply more and more difficult to reach a consensus, either because the job has become more partisan, or there's more interest out there that are opposing it? Has it become more difficult to do your job, would you say, over the years?
You know, there's two aspects of that. One is, I think, politically, in order to get to decision and have a broad, if not consensus, at least broad buy-in to it. Generally, at the national, even at the state level, I think it's harder today.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's much more difficult. And I like to say that the King County Council, by contrast, we're a functional legislative body. Mm-hmm. We really work our legislation. We face each other. We work out things in committee. And at the national level in particular, members don't face each other and they just face the camera. Mm-hmm. And so working sessions don't end up resolving issues. They just end up producing headlines and photo ops. King County Council is not true. We're here every day of the year. We are only 9. We represent this diverse community, but there's a spirit of cooperation here. So even though it is more difficult generally, I think here we've been able to get quite a bit done, even though we don't always agree on everything and have philosophical differences. The other more difficult thing is over the last 30 years, this incremental starving of government in terms of having the means to get things done. That has been very true of county government in the state of Washington. It's very true of
And you're
King
talking
County.
about funding, revenue.
Financing the government.
Right.
And that has become more difficult and will remain a major issue for our community, particularly as it relates to infrastructure, basic infrastructure that allows people to get in and around King County. So it's difficult.
One of the issues that you've been involved in for a number of years, and you continue to be involved in and express an extreme amount of passion for, is the issue of global warming, climate change.
Climate change,
You
yes.
recently wrote an article discussing this issue, and you refer to it as a national, not only an international issue, but one of national security.
Correct.
The Department of Defense agrees with you, and I think it was last year made a very similar statement that this is a issue of national security. Why do you believe that climate change would register as an issue of national security?
Well, I've often said, especially in recent years, that if you care about your kids and you care about your grandkids, you're going to care about this issue. And to deny it is to deny their future because it's an existential issue. You cannot put as much carbon as we are, both in the atmosphere and in the waters of the world, and not expect it to have a difficult effect. Scientifically, that is without dispute anymore. That's
right.
Absolutely true. We keep compounding that problem. And when you do that, and you look at the weather events that we've seen around the world, and especially in this country, from wildfires, even here in the state of Washington, where we have a lot of rain.
Droughts in California.
You see any number of different things affecting us. You begin to realize that the world is changing around us in issues like food supply, particularly with regard to our marine waters, where an immense amount of protein comes for people on a daily basis throughout the world. You start to see the compounding effects of that, and so you begin to say, wait a second, this isn't just a local emergency around a wildfire or drought. How is this impacting us as a nation? So you begin to think about that in terms of our ability to respond. And that's when I begin to ask the question, is there a national security issue? Well, I found out that other people were working on that too. And last October, the Department of Defense came out and said it's an immediate threat to national security. And they went through a long set of reasons why. I think when generals admirals, folks up and down the ranks have studied this issue and said this will impact every American, and it will get worse if we're not attended to it. We should pay attention to that. So that's the reason I wrote through the Henry and Jackson Foundation, the article that appeared recently. But it's a wake-up call to every American to pay attention.
You had mentioned that it is undisputable that our Earth is getting warmer. There are a few naysayers out there, but really the discussion is the cause. And then once we've identified the cause is what do we do about it? So in terms of the cause, there are still people out there that are denying that humans contributed to it, although I think it's nearly undisputable that humans, at least to some degree, contribute to the warming of our Earth, and it does affect us, especially here locally. With salmon, they need cold water. They're going elsewhere to find that cold water. And there are blobs of warm areas in our oceans that are just blobs of warm water that we can see on our satellite maps. So do you think that it is simply coming around that people are they're going to find more consensus that humans do contribute some degree to global warming?
Well, the science is very clear on that, and there's the question of whether this is an issue, and if you agree that it is, then what to do about it. Unfortunately, with all the science and all that we know about global warming, the weather question's been answered. It is causing this issue, and it is an existential issue. So now what to do about it? It's very hard for us to get to the second question, and we still have these deniers out here saying it doesn't exist or we don't contribute very much. So we're still trying. That's why the Department of Defense coming out and making a statement. It's a wake-up call that, yes, this is a real problem, and it does impact our ability to provide for the national defense. We should be paying attention. It's no longer a question of whether it's an issue. It's a question of what to do about it. And so we still have to win that debate. So.
It's difficult because there are industries. I think it's undisputable that there are some cause, methane gas being released in the air. So you are dealing with large industries that say, look, we need to continue to do our job. If we are forced to pay more money, say in taxes, that's going to hurt our industry. Is that the big struggle right now, is dealing with these large industries that I think without dispute are some main causers of this pollution?
Fossil fuels provide a great deal of the carbon loading that we're seeing across the world. There are answers to that. There are real alternatives. If you look at Germany over the course of the last 10 years, with very little gas or oil available to them, has moved to solar. They have more gray days in Germany than we have here in Seattle and King County. And yet they're able to power their cities and be able to deliver electricity to a very high standard, a very high quality of life in Germany without going to fossil fuels. They're not fully independent yet, but they're moving in that direction. It can be done. We have the technological innovation and wherewithal to find these solutions. We just have to say, let's get on with it.
We just have a short amount of time left, but let me just ask you, what's next for Larry Phillips? Once you leave this position, what's next for you?
You know, it's going to be about 6 months of taking time and not being heavily involved with a lot of new energy, new activities. And then I'll take a look at after 6 months of what's next. I know I'm going to have a lot of time to reflect, but I'm also going to have a lot of time to think about where I can involve myself directly in this community. And that will be part of that decision making. I will be around, I just won't be in elective office. I hope to be able to make a contribution in some significant way. Otherwise, I'll just be enjoying life.
On that last day that you're going to be in your office and you're saying goodbye to your staff for the last time and your colleagues, as you are walking out of that office for the last time as an elected official, what do you think is going to be your thoughts at that time?
You know, I've thought about that. And, you know, I hope I walk out of here with a big smile on my face, that I came in this building every day and made my contribution, whether everybody agreed with it or not, that I gave it my best shot, that I got to be working with some incredible public servants who represent a great institution here, and they do. And that we made a difference here. And so I hope that I'm very pleased and happy with that. And also, taking that elevator ride down, I'm going to be looking forward to a new day. So those are the two things I hope I'm going to be able to, on that last day, be able to reflect on and be happy about.
Well said. King County Councilmember Larry Phillips, thank you for being our guest today. We certainly appreciate it.
Pleasure to be with you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you watching our show. We hope you'll watch next time. Take care.